Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So for those who just arrived, let me give you a quick rundown of what's going on here. So we're working on this car. This is a 97 GC8 that we're putting a 22B wide body kit on. And it's got a full STI swap from a 2006 STI, which is right there. And as you can see, it's pretty much complete. It runs and drives, except I've got no brakes right now. But that's what's up. And today we're going to be installing the front fenders and possibly both bumpers if everything goes well. So stay tuned. Done. I wish it were that simple, but unfortunately it's not. So let me show you guys quick what needs to happen on this fender. So first of all, we need to drill some holes on this side, in the front and along the door as well, to get some bolts through this and secure it. Next thing is going to be filing down this area, because right now I don't have a trim here, but there's going to be a trim over this, and this is way too thick right now. There's no way the trim is going to fit here. So that's another point. The body line here needs to be adjusted. Maybe this needs to be bent a little bit, because right now there is kind of a height difference between the two. And not sure if this is going to be, yeah, this should be fine. I was thinking I could do some custom brackets up there, but if I don't have to, I won't. So yeah, those are the few first steps. And then once the wheels come in, I can trim the inside here, because right now it's way too large. I mean, that's my finger here, and I've got pretty big hands. So yeah, that's gonna be for later once the wheels are here. But if I can get the rest done on both fenders and everything fits perfectly, I'm gonna be pretty happy. So I got both fenders on the car, and I noticed a few weird things, and they're surprising because they're not the same on both sides. So if you look at this side, I got the bolts in here and by the door, that went just fine. But then over here, there's supposed to be two bolts, one here, one there, and those don't line up with the markings where the actual holes are supposed to be. This is too high, the holes are too low. And I tried pushing the fender down, but there's no way to line them up. The gap is really big, like the hole would be up here, whereas the nut is down there. So that's weird. And also the bracket on this side, I don't know if it's different for USDM cars, but in Europe, it seems to not line up at all. And if I do push the bracket towards the fender, it gives it a weird angle and it doesn't really work. So yeah, that's weird. Now on the other side, same thing, I got my bolts in here and on the side, that was no issues. But then here, I drilled the first hole exactly where the marking was on the fender, and that's sort of lined up with this nut. And now, if you look at the second hole, the marking's up there, but the hole's actually down there, so there is some difference here as well. It seems like the fender should be pushed down, but it doesn't go any further down. And the bracket here lines up much better. The hole is just, or the nut is just below the marking, so that could work potentially, but yeah, it seems to be a theme at this point that every nut is too low on those sides. But other than that, the fitment up here is pretty decent. I did have to modify it a little bit, but not too much. And down here, I couldn't put this bolt in because the door doesn't open far enough. And I broke a nut, or I broke the bolt inside the nut in the back there, so I couldn't put the bolt back in. I'm gonna have to fix that later. But for now, this is it. I'm pretty happy with it, where it sits right now, except those little issues. So to check that, I'm gonna put the hood back on, see the fitment, and then potentially the front lights as well. Check that everything fits to the fenders, and if everything's well, I'm just gonna drill the holes where they are and call it a day. All right, let's talk fitment for a little bit. So this body line here should be exactly continuous with the hood, and it's not really the case. You can tell right there, there's a step. And so it seems like the panel should be brought forward, but if I do that, then the panel gap here and along the door gets messed up, and I don't want that. Those are much more important than the front, and they're also much bigger, so if I can, I'm gonna have to fix the front and leave the back like this. Also, this body line here is nice all the way up to here, and then there seems to be a bend towards the hood, so yeah, not ideal, but you can just sand it down, no issue here. Then it's a little bit higher also, this panel, than the hood. I'm gonna have to, or try to focus here. So you can tell this is slightly higher than the hood, and that confirms the issue I was having here with the bolts. So the whole panel needs to be brought down somehow. No idea how, I'm gonna have to figure it out later. But this side is a little bit worse. So the height of it is taller. I'm gonna have to focus again. Yep, there you go. So this is much higher than the hood, and that confirms again the issue I was having right there. So not sure again how to bring it down, but this fitment forward back is much better. The front's actually really good, and the panel gaps over here are also really good. So that's perfect. Both fenders seems to be a little bit high. Not sure why, but it's gonna have to be fixed. All right, guys, big change of plans. I've taken the last few days to think about this fender issue, and I've come up with something that I think is gonna work a lot better than whatever I had planned before. So let me show you. You know how in the back we have fiberglass panels, and they're stuck onto metal. Like, I still have a metal door, but the fiberglass is just clecoed on top of it. Well, I'm gonna do the same thing in the front. So instead of using the entire fiberglass panel, I'm gonna use the stock panel, which is here, out of metal, and I'm gonna cut out a section and then cleco whatever is left from this panel on top of it. That allows me to have the stock fitment by the hood. So this is all gonna remain here up to probably around there. So all of this is gonna be stock looking. And then my fiberglass panel is gonna come out here, be super wide, and then go down in the back. So that's the new game plan right now. And I'm trying to figure out where to cut my panel. So for now, that's why I have one fiberglass panel here and one metal over there, so I can compare. And right off the bat, you can see that this body line, or the shape of this panel, is much different than the stock one. So this one kind of starts off flat and then goes down, whereas the stock one kind of already goes down right away. So that's kind of an issue. I can't just glue the other one on top of it because the angles are going to be different. So I'm going to have to cut this and then bend it somewhat flat so that it mates up with this surface just fine. That's just one thing to keep in mind, but otherwise I'm going to be cutting somewhere along this line and then down, and then here I'm just going to go something like this, so to remove basically all of this and anything here along the hood. So as you can tell, I'm not exactly sure where to cut yet, but I have a rough idea in my head, so I'm going to try stuff, see what works, what doesn't, and hopefully by the end of the video both fenders will be completed. That means unfortunately I won't have time to get to the bumpers this time, but that's going to be in the next video, so it's coming anyways. But yeah, for now, this is the game plan, and let's try it. Alright, so this is how much is left from the original panel. I've cut a good amount, but I've also left quite a bunch. So up here there's a lot of metal still left, and even in the back here, this stuff I'm not going to use, but I wanted it just in case I do end up using it. So now let's take the other one and put it on top. And there it is. It fits quite nicely right off the bat, but there's still a little bit of gap here that I want to, fix. And also I'm having some interference in the back because I left both tabs in the metal and the fiberglass. I didn't know which one to use. So right now these two are kind of interfering, but that's not a big issue. The big issue though is down here. I ended up cutting way too much of the white panel. All this area is actually a big gap, which I'm gonna have to fill now. And I've left this. I didn't know if I needed it, so I left it just in case. But now I need to find a way to fill this and basically fix my mistake. So I've decided to whip out the welding machine. It's right there, and I'm gonna MIG weld some extra metal to basically fill the gap and attach the fiberglass panel onto the metal panel. And there's the fender all welded up, so you can see where I welded here. I've already cleaned it up with the flappy disc, but in the back I didn't do it, and it's looking pretty crappy from all the residue and the paint that was on there. I tried to get as much off as I could, but it's really hard to reach in the small spots in the back, so that made it really difficult to weld on this side, and I actually burned through on a few spots, so I have tiny holes, but I won't bother about those. Probably put some seam sealer or something just to make it look nice. But that's the first fender done, I believe, at least in the front. There's still going to be the rear portion left, but now we can actually put it on the car and test fit the new fender. And there's the panel back on the car finally. So, but down below we have the new section that was welded in, and it's now all tight and sealed. And both the metal and the fiberglass are now flush against each other, which means we can glue them. We can put some clecos in here, so that's perfect. Still need to finish up this little thing here, but that's not going to be hard. And there's the fender fully assembled and finalized on the car, just held together with the clecos. So now instead of two pieces, this acts as a single piece, which means I can remove the entire fender and store it somewhere while I'm working on the rest of the car. So that's great, and the fitment is just perfect. I mean, look at this. This is basically OEM, so that's what I was going for, and I was not happy with the way the fiberglass panel fits before. So now this is perfect. That's what I wanted. And also, now I have the metal over here, which means that I can actually torque my bolts all the way and not worry about the fiberglass cracking. So that's also perfect. Now, there was a lot of work down here, but it turned out great. There's no complaints. This is perfect now. And honestly, this is one of the best ways to do it, in my opinion. You get the OEM fitment with the wide fiberglass arches. So just awesome stuff. I would definitely recommend doing it this way, except if you have a race car, fully race car, and you're going for weight savings. The only two downsides of this technique are, one, it's a lot of work, much more work than just bolting on the panels. Two, it's actually heavier because you've got some metal in there plus the fiberglass. So yeah, overall heavier than just the fiberglass, but it looks so much better. Now that the first fender is done, it's time to do the second fender, but that thing took me way too long to do, so I won't put you guys through the whole process again. I'm just gonna snap my fingers and hope that the second fender will magically appear. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. What? This actually worked. Sick. Nah, just kidding. I just spent 2 hours doing this and it was a pain. But it's now done and the thing is clear-coated on there. Fitment is perfect, just like OEM. Same thing in the front and basically same as the other side, except I didn't mess up the cuts down there, which means that I didn't have to weld. So that's what I was trying to do at first and before I messed up. So you just leave this longer, overlap it with the metal, and you can glue them together, and that's it. So that's a lot simpler than trying to weld 20 years old crappy metal. But now both sides are now completely done. So next thing would be obviously the bumpers, but it's been a long day, long week, so that's what I'm gonna call it a day. And enough content for this video. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you like seeing the progress with this build. If you do, subscribe. You're not gonna want to miss the rest. Find me on Instagram, SwissTuned. I always post cool stuff about the builds. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.